San Cristobal is a community located 900 kilometers far from Uyuni. The town is near by the San Cristobal silver mine, one of the biggest in the world. Recently renovated, the town church was removed stone by stone, and it's considering one of the oldest churches in the Bolivian Altiplano. Its paints and walls are from the 17th century. Ollague volcano, also known as Ollague, is a massive andesite stratovolcano in the Andes on the border between Bolivia and northern Chile. It is located southeast of the village that shares its name and 83 kilometers, far from San Juan town. It has an elevation of 5,870 meters. Canapa is a saltwater lagoon situated in Sud-Lez province of the Potosí department, close to the Hedionda, smelly, lagoon. Canapa has an approximate surface area of 1.42 square kilometers, and it's located at 4,140 meters, 13,582 feet. Canapa Lagoon is surrounded by 3 volcanoes, Caquina, Tapaquilcha, and Canapa. Vicuñas are relatives of the llama and are now believed to be the wild ancestor of domesticated alpacas. Vicuñas live in the high alpine areas of the Andes. Vicuñas produce small amounts of extremely fine wool, which is very expensive because the animal can be shorn only every 3 years and has to be caught from the wild. Vicuñas have been protected by law. When they were declared endangered in 1974, only about 6,000 animals were left. Today, the vicuña population has recovered to about 350,000. Vicuñas are native to South America's central Andes. They are found in Peru, northwestern Argentina, Bolivia, and northern Chile. The Honda Lagoon is located inside Eduardo Avaroa Natural Reserve at an altitude of 4,114 meters, 13,497 feet. The Honda Lagoon is situated in the middle of a low-concentration salt flat field. It is the deepest lagoon of the circuit. Its light blue waters contrast with the highlands' earthy colors, creating a unique landscape. One of the most unforgettable road trip adventure in all of Latin America. The La Paz to San Pedro de Atacama route crosses what is inarguably one of the most stunning plateaus on the planet, the Bolivian Altiplano. The Altiplano, Spanish for high plain, or Andean plateau, in west-central South America, is the most extensive high plateau on Earth outside Tibet. The plateau is located at the latitude of the widest part of the north-south trending Andes. The bulk of the Altiplano lies in Bolivia, but its northern parts lie in Peru, and its southwestern fringes lie in Chile. A high-altitude plateau that covers the divide between the eastern and western Andes Mountain. The Altiplano reaches an elevation of over 5,000 meters, 16,404 feet, and stretches for over 800 kilometers. A land of volcanoes and sulfur lakes, colored lagoons, steamy geysers, multi-hued deserts, and thermal hot springs. At an altitude of 4,575 meters above sea level, 15,009 feet, the barren beauty of the desert extends as far as you can see. In this high plateau, icy cold strong winds and special climatic peculiarities prevail, creating unique wonders of nature that seem to be from another planet. One of these is the Arbol de Piedra, a stone tree in the desert. It is part of the Eduardo Averoa National Park, which covers a total area of 7,000 square kilometers. For centuries, the winds formed through erosion special rock formations that the landscape. In the Siloli Desert in Bolivia, volcanic activity reigned long ago. Volcanic rock, now visible everywhere, was formed and polished over the course of many years by the never-ending winds. As a result of the continuous erosion, various bizarre formations such as the stone tree, called Arbol de Piedra in Spanish, were created in the desert. The Arbol de Piedra is about 7 meters high and seems to have the whole structure of a petrified tree. Near the Arbol de Piedra are many other unusual rock formations formed by the erosion. The Red Lagoon, Laguna Colorada, is a shallow lake within the Eduardo Averoa Andean Fauna National Reserve and close to the border with Chile. The lake is famous for its strong red color caused by algae that provide food for large flocks of pink flamingos. The Red Lagoon is located at 4,278 meters above the sea level and has a total surface of 60 square kilometers. It is a lagoon of several colors, which has a predominant array of red shades. This is caused by animal plankton, phytoplankton, and other additional elements. The beauty of the landscape that surrounds the area contrasts with the reddish hue of the lagoon and the pink flamencos. This place is also known as the Nest of the Andes, as it shelters more than 30,000 flamencos of 3 different species. It is also home to the Perihuana chica, a species of flamingo, the largest of its kind in South America. The view becomes even more spectacular with the presence of a generally large collection of flamencos that reside all over the red waters of the lake. There are 3 major species of birds: Perina chica, or chu, the totoko, or Perina grande. All of these species of birds make a stop here before continuing their journey towards the north. Sol de Mañana is an area with geothermal manifestations in southern Bolivia, including fumaroles, hot springs, and mud pools. It lies at about 4,900 meters, 16,100 feet, making it among the highest geothermal fields in the world. South of Laguna Colorada, the field is located within the Eduardo Avaroa Andean Fauna National Reserve. The field has been prospected as a possible geothermal power production site, with research beginning in the 1970s and after a pause recommencing in 2010. Development is ongoing as of 2023. In an area of 10 square kilometers, 3.9 square miles, there are steam vents, mud pools, hot springs, geysers, and fumaroles. The Sol de Mañana geothermal system may be physically connected to El Techo, with Sol de Mañana being closer to the heat source and Techo an outflow at lower elevation. Laguna Verde, is a high-altitude mineral lake in the Eduardo Avaroa Reserve, known for its beautiful green color. It sits at the foot of two volcanoes, Lacancaber and Jeriques, and are reflected in the water when the weather is calm. The Lacancaber is a stratovolcano on the border between Bolivia and Chile. The Green Lagoon is located at 4,350 meters above sea level, 14,271 feet. It has a total surface of 17 square kilometers, and when seen for the first time, it has often been described as a vision of the end of the world. The Laguna Verde is divided into two major bodies of water. The reason for its particular coloring is the high content of magnesium that exists in most of the geologic formations of the area.